only thing we have to fear is
in war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we've earned, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
You found your way to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thanks for joining us today. Visit us online at wallbuilders.com and wallbuilderslive.com. On the radio website, you can get our archives. If you click on the archive section, you can get programs from the last few months. And you can also check out our listing of stations from around the country carrying WallBuilders Live now. Here with David Barton. And David, we talk about faith and politics, but really it's faith in the culture. And I love when we get to talk about the fact that more and more Christians are going into entertainment, actually creating good entertainment with good values instead of just giving that entire area of the culture over to the left.
Yeah, that was an area of the culture where we had so much strength. At some point, I'm going to come out with just clips. I've been collecting this for a number of years of all the movies that had so much redeeming quality, and I mean mainstream movies. There's a great segment with John Wayne in the movie Operation Pacific, and then Gary Cooper and Sergeant York. I mean, we're talking about Academy Award winners, and Northwest Passage toward the end, Rogers there back in the founding era is quoting Bible verses, and even in early James Bond, You Only Live Twice, they had this Christ-centered funeral at sea. And then you get to Escape from Fort Bravo, which I think was William Holden, and another Christ-centered thing. And I mean, just movie after movie after movie after movie. Humphrey Bogart, Action in the North Atlantic. All these movies are just, there's so many Christ-centered biblical perspectives in them back in the day. Now, try to find that today, and it has really been difficult. Although I will say that in the last, we talk to Ted Baer over at MovieGuide.com, who keeps up with all these movies. He's right there in Hollywood, works with all the producers and directors, etc. And as he's pointed out, it's like in the last 3 years, we've had more pro-family, Christian-themed movies than we've had in the last 30 years. And so things really are starting to turn. And, even movies like Interstellar, you see Interstellar that's out there, there's segments in there that I'm sure the left accused me of writing, They're so ticked at me over what I say about history, and he gets into a segment in there where he's criticizing the revisionism in public schools.
No kidding.
Oh yeah. He's criticizing historical revisionism, and he's smacking down public schools for how they indoctrinate rather than educate. It's same stuff I talk about, and so it's just a lot of fun to see that in recent years it's come back that way, which means that there are people willing to put their money into producing those kind of movies. Now, those movies, a lot of them are doing very, very well. Not all of them do well, and that's somewhat a reflection of how good the quality is. But if you get a good message with good quality, man, people are really responding to that. And so the tone of the new movies is so much better. And we've seen over recent years, you and I both know several deep pocket guys who have said, I'm out of politics for a while. I've done that for years. I'm going to the culture. I'm going to start working on movies. I'm going to start helping fund movies and invest in movies. And I was talking to a guy just in the last couple of weeks who's one of the nation's most wealthiest guys. He says, I want to do some good movies. And so there is a desire now for some of these guys to start putting it in there. And as you know, you've been out in Hollywood and spoken to groups out in Hollywood that are conservative and very strong Christian directors and actors and producers. And there's a growing thing in Hollywood that's moving the right direction on this.
Yeah, it's important. And I appreciate what you raised in terms of the second part of it, because it's one thing to have this new generation coming out. As you know, we've got graduates from Patriot Academy that make movies and TV and all that. Which is great. We want that talent going in that direction, but you also need, it's like my friend Paul Sika says, young men fight wars, but old men fund wars. And so you got to have the successful businessmen as well, those folks that have done well, that have these values, willing to invest in this kind of media. And then we, the consumers, need to be willing to go invest in that media as well and support the good stuff that's got good values. And more of that is happening. Our guest today is actually a very successful businessman, one of the largest companies out there in health and fitness. and he's now decided to influence the culture through movies. We'd love to see more and more of that, so we want to tell his story today. Gary Heavin is our guest, the founder of Curves. He'll be back with us when we get back from the break. Stay with us here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. America has a history of great patriots who loved and sacrificed much for their country. One of these was John Witherspoon, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. While president at Princeton, he personally trained many who became important leaders in American government, including James Madison. How could John Witherspoon tell if someone really loved America? He explained, "He is the best friend to American liberty, who is most sincere and active in promoting true and undefiled religion, and who sets himself with the greatest firmness to bear down profanity and immorality of every kind. Whoever is an avowed enemy of God, I hesitate not to call him an enemy to his country." Founding Father John Witherspoon believed that a true American patriot opposed profanity and immorality and promoted true and undefiled religion.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thanks for staying with us. Gary Heavin is our guest. Got a new movie coming out, Mission Air, and does work with Mike Norris as well. I guess, is Mike producing, and you executive producer on this one, Gary?
Yeah, actually, Mike and I co-wrote the script, and I'm producing, and Mike is the director. And this is his 30th movie directing, so that's our real role.
So, and you've been doing these movies for a while. And by the way, just for our listeners that aren't aware, you actually started Curves and very successful in that industry, but decided that, hey, you wanted to influence the culture through movies. What caused you to make that shift?
My wife and I started Curves over 20 years ago, and of course, we became the largest fitness franchise in the world. And I got to tell you, the key to our success was holding up the Judeo-Christian values, you know, not as a standard of perfection, but as something that we could aspire to and people could expect from us. And so having built a career based on Judeo-Christian values and practice, when I retired, we were looking for something to do to further those values in media. Movies are great messaging because you can entertain people while you demonstrate the effectiveness of those values. Values which, by the way, your organization is a strong advocate for. And I'm really honored to be here for that reason.
Well, appreciate it, man. And we're just glad you're doing things like this because movies have been used by those that don't share our values to really pump their values into the culture for so many years. So it's great to kind of come back to, used to in the 50s, it was, you know, TV and movies reflected the values that America was built upon, but that's been hijacked for so many years. And we're just glad to see folks going back into that arena. It's an arena we left for too long, and it's important for Christians to not think that Hollywood is off limits. People of faith can be influencing even Hollywood.
You know, you made a good point. We're going to take back that medium, and there's a lot of people now that are producing Christian movies that are very, very successful.
Yeah, look at what God's Not Dead has done.
It just broke the $65 million level. So there are people out there who want to spend time with their families, being entertained by something that they don't have to be embarrassed by or ashamed by. In fact, being entertained by something that's going to really aim in what they're trying to teach their children.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. So tell us about Mission Air. This is your latest, and how many movies have you done now?
Well, I've done 3, but my partner Mike Norris, who by the way is Chuck Norris's son, has done 30. So I'm fairly new at this, although I've been messaging, my entire career. But Mission Air is a really fun movie. It's exciting. It's an action-adventure movie. The lead is a woman who's a nurse and a pilot, and she's a missionary down to Mexico. And on one of her trips, the bad guys, the banditos, try to steal her airplane, and one of them accidentally gets killed, and a kidnapper comes after her daughter. Kidnapper is played by somebody that's fairly well known, Jamie Kennedy, and he's a great bad guy.
You actually had Tom Arnold in it as well, I noticed.
Tom Arnold, comic relief, and Tom was hilarious. He kind of did his thing, kind of ad-libbed, and he's naturally a pretty funny guy. Well, the movie goes on, and of course, the message is to fight evil and to have faith in yourself, and of course, good overcomes bad at the end of the movie, and a really fun and exciting ending.
It's available on DVD now at pureflix.com. It's in retail stores across the country, and safe viewing for the whole family to enjoy. You know, we talked earlier about you and Diane and the just an incredible blessing with the growth of Curves and the way God's blessed you guys there into using godly values in business. How important is it, Gary, to get Christians to think about business and media and entertainment, all these as mission fields as well, and not think that, hey, if you want to be a good Christian, you got to stay just in the church, but you got to take it. We need to get people to think about taking it outside the walls of the church.
That's a good point. I, as a CEO, have been praying at every event that I ever sponsored. And I'm talking about in foreign countries, in the Middle East, expressing your relationship with Christ in front of people is a really important message. And I'd say there's some practical things too. You know, Judeo-Christian values can be expressed in ways like simply telling the truth and believing that truth is not relative, that it can be absolute. And then integrity is doing what you say. And then the power of unity, when two or more agree, they can go much further than they can as individuals. And to build a 10,000 franchise organization, you've got to work together. And by the way, you got to tell them the truth and do what you say if you're going to work together. So these are all biblical values that have very, very practical impact on building a company, building an organization.
Gary Heavin is our guest. He's the founder of Curves and also now producing faith-based movies. More when we come back on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Often today, it seems that the federal government has become too intrusive into local matters, and federal micromanagement has now unfortunately become the norm in education, law enforcement, religious expressions, and even on what is and is not moral. Strikingly, the Founding Fathers had intended that the federal government never intrude into any of these issues. As Thomas Jefferson explained, taking from the states the moral rule of their citizens and subordinating it to the federal government would break up the foundations of the Union. I believe the states can best govern our home concerns and the federal government our foreign ones. According to Thomas Jefferson, the original plan was for the federal government to direct foreign affairs, but for the states and local communities to direct the domestic and the moral ones.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. Gary Heavin, our guest, the executive producer of a new movie coming out called Mission Air, also the founder of Curves. And Gary, you were talking before the break just about leading your company with those faith-based values. And there seems like it is a concentrated effort to try to create an atmosphere where we're supposed to separate our faith values from, if we're in business, our business, or if we're in politics, our politics. And I mean, we even have been told with the Obamacare cases that, you know, your faith is fine at home and church, but you cannot bring that into the private market in your business. How much flack have you taken for leading your business with those values?
Well, I'm a big pro-life guy, and I think it comes with being pro-woman. You know, we've influenced the lives of millions of women, you know, so they can live better. And being pro-life, I think, is consistent with protecting unborn children. And being the head of a large women's brand, the feminists targeted me and created tremendous havoc in the organization. But, you know, it wasn't about me. It was about honoring my God who gave me the skills and the opportunity to prosper by helping people in the way I did. And I can say one of my proudest moments is when they burned my effigy on the Washington Mall.
Did they really? No kidding.
Yeah, those guys. I tell you, the elite, the radical feminists, they can get pretty ornery out there. But that's okay. It just means you're making a difference when they come after you.
Well, you sound like what Reagan called happy warriors. You've got to. I can just tell there's a joy in you, and you're not deterred by that. I mean, there's so many people today in these arenas, these other areas of the culture, business, politics, and whatever, that they're afraid to stand on their faith because it can and will affect the bottom line in the climate that we're in right now. How did you and your wife have to struggle with that decision? I mean, how did you get to that point where you said, look, our faith is number one and we're going to take these stances regardless?
With us, it was a little easier than that because Curves was such a miracle. The fact that we became the fastest growing of any franchise company in history, I mean, this was God's signature. So it was so clear that God was really running the ship, that doing things that were consistent with his nature and his character and being obedient, I hate to admit, were easy, even though, we paid the price for it along the way. But that was okay. If you're making a difference, you're going to go against the enemy. And the enemy, by the way, uses ridicule and he tries to embarrass you in front of people. And guess what? If your success is about you, then you're vulnerable to those things. But our success was so clearly a blessing from a loving God that it wasn't really about us, and we were able to stay focused on what God's instructions were on a day-to-day basis. So we just, we obeyed. God said, "Who will go?" And we said, "Send us."
Amen. What a blessing. What a blessing. What a great example, too, for others. I know a lot of our listeners out there are in these different arenas and facing some of those same challenges, and just being willing to stand up and be of good courage and speak truth regardless of what the consequences will be is just great to have good examples out there. What's next for you, Gary?
Well, Missionary's exciting because it's just coming out and sales are going great. A lot of people are responding to the movie. And, we're glad that we can use this media to reach out to people and to encourage them, people much like you've just spoken about, where they can have examples of overcoming adversity by applying the values that they're taught. The next project we're working on is a political movie. My goal is to do one faith-based movie a year and one political movie a year where we warn people, where we wake people up to the reality out there. And our country's a mess, as you know. We're spending into oblivion, which is not sustainable.
Right.
We're going to wars that we have no business in. It's just really out of control. And the American people need to wake up and realize that if we're going to still have what's left of our freedom, we're going to have to get in the game.
Amen, no doubt. So is that going to be a 2015 release then?
Yep, about mid-year, and can't give away too much, but I'll tell you that it's a kind of an apocalyptic movie. It's called Armageddon, and it's a post-EMP electromagnetic pulse that wipes out all of the power in the country, and people have to survive under the circumstances. So it's going to be pretty cool to watch.
Sounds cool. I hope you'll come back and give us a preview right before it comes out.
I will love to.
Gary, appreciate all you're doing out there, man. Keep blessing through your business and also through what you're doing in entertainment, and what a great representation of how we can influence the culture. We appreciate your time and coming on today.
Thank you, Rick. And you and WallBuilders keep up the great work that you do. I'm really proud to be on your show and to further what you guys do every day. That's
Gary Heavin. The new movie is called Missionaire, and we're going to have a link today at wallbuilderslive.com. If you click on that link, it'll take you right over to PureFlix's website where you can get the DVD. Stay with us. Back in a moment with David Barton. Have you ever wanted to learn more about the United States Constitution but just felt like, man, the classes are boring, or it's just that old language from 200 years ago, or I don't know where to start? People want to know, but it gets frustrating because you don't know where to look for truth about the Constitution either. Well, we've got a special program for you available now called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green, and it's actually a teaching done on the Constitution at Independence Hall in the very room where the Constitution was framed. We take you both to Philadelphia, the cradle of liberty and Independence Hall, and to the WallBuilders Library, where David Barton brings the history to life to teach the original intent of our founding fathers. We call it the Quick Start Guide to the Constitution because in just a few hours through these videos, you will learn the Citizen's Guide to America's Constitution. You'll learn what you need to do to help save our constitutional republic. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's going to inspire you to do your part to preserve freedom for future generations. It's called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. You can find out more information on our website now at wallbuilders.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. We're back here with David Barton now. And David, so it's just like we said at the beginning. I mean, this is kind of that example we'd love to see more of. Business folks putting their money behind good media.
You know, I'm like you. Well, I don't know how much you are on this, but I often work really early in the morning. At 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning is often when I go to bed. The office has gone home, and then I don't have to answer questions for everybody, and I can really focus on getting through my emails or writing or whatever I'm doing. And so a lot of times I will have TV on, and it's good background noise for working. And, you know, late at night, you can get all sorts of programming on TV, as you're aware. And I was recently watching TV in the background. I heard a warning thing came on. I looked up, and I read the warning and heard the warning. And the warning said, warning, this program is designed for educational purposes for young people under the age of 16. I go, oh, my gosh, what is this? And you know what the program was that had this warning on it?
Warning for under 16 education?
Yep.
That right there sounds weird to me. So
it is. It is.
I don't know. No idea.
The Lone Ranger.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
A warning label on the Lone Ranger, that's as bad as the warning label on the Constitution they have these days.
Well, you need to know that the Lone Ranger may pull out his guns to stop a bank robbery. And you know, for kids to see guns, that could be really rough stuff. And, you know, even though the Lone Ranger often quotes scriptures, and even though good always prevails, and even though he doesn't ever kill anybody, he shoots the guns out of their hands. I mean, he does have guns, Rick. And, you know, for kids under 16 to see that. So you just need to know, kids, this is for educational purposes that you're watching. Wow. You know, we have to have warnings to say, hey, kids, there's about to be a good moral lesson taught here. You're going to learn something good from the Lone Ranger. We have to give a warning on that. I mean, that was unbelievable that we've gone that far in direction. But, you know,
I could see a warning label on the new Lone Ranger movie that was not like the old Lone Ranger TV shows.
No, not at all like the old. You and I just finished at the Legislators Conference, at the annual Legislators Conference, and Tim Brooks, in the evening session he was talking about the Lone Ranger and the Rifleman and Leave It to Beaver. And he said every one of those old programs always had a moral message, some message that reinforced it. And so when Gary said, you know, you need to be entertained by something that's going to say amen to your children and your values, yeah, exactly right. You know, that's what we had. The whole culture used to say amen to values and morals. No matter where you turned on TV, whatever, if you like westerns, if you like comedies, if you like dramas, if you like whatever, there's going to be something that says amen to your biblical traditional values. Man, look how far we are today. It's so much the other direction.
And not just in entertainment, but in the business world and the business community, you know, where you can run your business so that your business environment 5 days a week is also supporting those values. I loved hearing Gary say that, but I can only imagine the criticism that he's received for that. I mean, that's the Obama administration is totally against you taking your faith values into the workplace.
Well, you know, you and I have been attacked and criticized a lot, but I don't think we've been burned in effigy yet. So
that's right. He's got that on us for sure.
We've got a ways to go. But I loved what he said. He said, I'm pro-life because I'm pro-woman. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Exactly said right. And by the way, he said something I wrote down that I really thought was right. You've heard this. He was talking about being attacked. He said, it just means that you're making a difference because they come after you. You know, when they come after you, it means you're making a difference. You think that's a true statement or not?
Yeah, I kind of always bought into that. They only tackle the guy with the ball. You know, if you're getting flack, you're over the target idea.
All right. So everybody use that statement and say, are you making a difference? Because if you are, that means you are under attack. So are you under a direct, vicious attack? If you're not, you may not be stirring the pot enough. They may not have figured where you are or what you believe. You may not have been strong enough for people to know. Because if you stand for American beliefs, if you believe in American exceptionalism or the Constitution, or if you believe in traditional morality or faith in the Bible, and people know that, they will come after you. We've had too many examples recently of people just wanting to live out their faith in their own life, being attacked by the state, being fined by the state, being threatened with jail. Just pastors just want to live out their faith. And I think we're at the point now that if you're not under attack, you might ought to re-examine and see if you're pretty clear to others about what your beliefs are and what your convictions are, because you may be hiding them under a bushel basket. And I don't mean that to sound as a universal condemnation of anyone, but when he said that, I just thought about that and said, wow, if that's true, that's a good measurement for whether we're over the target, or are we taking the flack, or are we taking the attacks? And
yeah, if you're just coasting through and everything's milquetoast, and you're so afraid of ever offending anybody, you can't be standing for much.
That's right. And so maybe that's a good kind of way to measure. But I appreciate him taking his success and his funds and his money and putting it back into entertainment. That's an area that definitely needs to change.
No doubt about it. Thanks for listening today, folks. You can get more of WallBuilders at wallbuilderslive.com.
Stand undivided.